was a $50 coin in the November sky. The porter, he helped me to drag my old suitcase inside. My friends shook their heads and said it was faster to fly. But every compatriot coming on after had all made the same choice to mine. I'm on the night train, see this land for a change.
So perhaps we can start out by you guys introducing yourselves to whoever may be watching this thing. Yeah?
Sure. I'm Sav. I play violin and guitar and bass, and I write and sing for the Accidentals.
Uh-huh.
And my name is Katie, and I play cello, acoustic guitar, electric guitar. I used to play accordion.
She hangs her head in shame. I love it. you literally did.
Trying to decide between that or kazoo, but I also write and sing for the Accidentals.
Excellent.
And my name is Michael, and I play drums, and every once in a while I get to play guitar and sing backing vocals in the Accidentals.
Cool. Very good. Well, thank you guys for joining me here today. I'm here in Auckland, New Zealand. You guys ever been out this way?
We wish.
Have not.
No.
Been wanting to.
There's plenty of time. So congratulations on the EP. It's called Time Out, and it's session 1, so we can only assume that there'll be more to come. So that's cool.
Yeah, it'd be really embarrassing if we didn't follow it up with like a session 2. So
The good thing is we have plenty of songs.
We do.
We've been co-writing every week. So
Really? Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is exciting because this is kind of a co-writing experiment. I don't know if it's an experiment, but it's a thing. So one of you maybe can tell folks what exactly is happening here with the 5 tracks that are on the EP.
yeah, so before everything shut down, our goal was to we were on the road actually, and we had just moved to Nashville part-time to record, do session work and do some co-writes with artists. And then, obviously the world shut down while we were on tour, and our plans had been to fly out to Portland and record our upcoming LP called Vessel.
Right.
But unfortunately, the situation required that we come back home. So we all went back to northern Michigan and kind of had to come to terms with what had happened, and realized that we still had a lot left behind. Even after we lost our income, we still had, a Patreon going, and we had the ability to create a home studio. So
Right.
we did that, and then pretty soon, very serendipitously, the co-writes that we had moved to Nashville to do started happening virtually. And so we had collected all these songs, we'd written with all these amazing artists. And
Yes, there is. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that one.
I
love that song.
Can't get better than Warren.
Yeah, really.
We usually get the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald or something along
Yeah.
those lines.
Well, that was going in my head as I was looking. I was like, "Oh, there's Lake Huron and Lake Superior is flowing into." Yeah, I know. Because I moved here from Rochester, New York, which is on Lake Ontario. So
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of flowing.
So they
all-
taught you the acronym in elementary school too, the Holmes thing. Yeah. Funny.
Exactly. Okay, now you were in the process of telling me about writing, what the concept behind the EP is. So please pick up where you left off if possible.
I knew that sneeze was coming right at the end of that question.
That's good. I like
This is
that.
going exactly in Accidentals
going
fashion.
great.
I knew it.
All right, this is an Accidentals podcast now.
We have allergies.
Okay, so so like we said, we started out in Nashville, doing co-writing and session work, and then when everything shut down, we were actually on tour, and our next destination had been to go to Portland to record our upcoming LP called Vessel.
Right.
Obviously that didn't plan out, so we ended up driving back to northern Michigan, and there was a lot of talk over what was going to happen. We lost, all of our touring income for the foreseeable future, and we didn't know how we were going to finish this record. So what we ended up deciding to do was to record it on our own, because we all have some audio tech experience, and we built a home studio using like CD boxes that hadn't been sold, and we thumbtacked blankets to the ceiling and just did all kinds of crazy stuff. And, as we were recording this album, we were also doing some co-writes over Zoom virtually with a lot of really amazing artists who we either had the experience of meeting online, or sometimes we had toured with them in the past or played shows together. And nobody was doing anything really. Nobody's going anywhere. So we would reach out to some of these people and be like, sure, I got nothing better to do. And we'd write songs together. But as we wrote these songs, we were just like, oh man, these need to come out right now. We need to shelve whatever plans we had for Vessel. Like, let's wait till we can get back on the road for that one. But this music is speaking more to the time than we really thought.
Cool.
So
very good. So out of the 5 songwriters or songs and songwriter collaborations that you've done, I'm familiar with everybody except for the first one, which is Maia Sharp, I believe her name.
Oh, yeah.
Maia Sharp, yeah.
And then I was doing my little research and realized that she's just put an album out on the same day that your EP came out. And I listened to that, and it's fabulous. So that's how things happen. It's cool. So tell me about that collaboration, how it came about.
No, we don't have a big place. We're living in a suitcase. We're waiting out the storm. Yeah, the pipes are freezing over. It's only getting colder, but we've been keeping warm.
Our song with Maia, it's called Might As Well Be Gold, and that's actually one of the first co-writes we ever did. That was back when Sav and I were, moved to Nashville at the beginning of 2020, before everything went crazy, and we really just bonded immediately. I mean, our friend Sharon Corbett was introducing us to the co-writing scene because prior to Time Out and this co-writing project, Sav and I mostly wrote separately. So primarily, I mean, we tour like over 200 days a year as a trio and play anything from folk to rock. So we'd come off of tour and Sav and I would write separate. So we were very much getting used to writing together, and we pretty much met Maia like at a coffee shop as strangers, and
oh really?
just like immediately opened up and started having these amazing conversations about kind of this baggage, because we just both found ourselves moving to a new place and really just ended up boiling down to finding things we were still grateful for in all the chaos. So that's how we wrote Might As Well Be Gold. And I mean, Maia, she's written songs for the Chicks, like Bonnie Raitt, like just incredible writer. She's been on the scene for a long time. So we had a lot to learn from her as we did from the other writers on the EP.
Cool, very cool. Yep, yeah, that's great. So when is it different writing? So you've gone from writing on your own to writing as a duo, so to speak, and now you've added other people. How does that change the process each time that you add another person to the mix?
Yeah, it's definitely a different dynamic every time. It's sort of like, when you go on the road and you bring an extra person, then everybody's personalities have to shift around that too, and everybody is kind of accommodating. And the same thing applies to co-writing, but I think the difference is it always starts with a conversation. So typically we're like, what are you going through? Well, I'm going through this. What are you going through? Oh, I'm kind of going through the same thing. We should write about it. It's cheaper than therapy, and it's really, it's kind of
and probably more effective.
Yeah. Definitely speaks to something universal, I feel like, because at some point everybody's going through something, and it actually was good to write during this time, because I was going through a creative block as well at the beginning of quarantine. It was like, what can I write about that everybody isn't already aware of, and we still found a way to process some of the grieving emotions and try to figure out how to heal from a very long year of isolation through the co-writes. But yeah, as far as how it changed the dynamic, it was very much like everybody had a different process, a different thought, a different idea, and we would pitch our own ideas. And what I can say was the same every time was there was a sense of mutual respect. Like it just felt like a bunch of people in a room. There was no don't get me wrong, we were like trying not to pee ourselves, because some of these people I've been listening to since I was a kid. So we're trying not to groom them, but at the same time, they were just people with really brilliant ideas, and we just came together and made some music.
Cool. And Michael, what did you think of all this?
I thought it was wonderful, especially just hearing all of the co-writes. Like, man, and it's so funny because I'm usually not in on the writing process, but they would be, we were all recording up in the loft, day after day, and they would jump on co-writes, and I'd kind of come up while I was doing some other things and just hear little snippets of these co-writes happening and just be like, man, what are they talking about? Like, they were, just when you walk in on a conversation like halfway through and you're like, all right, keep going.
Well, Michael also had like a huge influence on the production process of recording Time Out. Like, he had a lot of really great ideas on how to arrange. We usually arrange songs as a 3-piece. So that was also like a big component of Michael's awesome brilliance, was bringing it in on the arrangement side.
Well, I'm a big audio nerd, and so
there you
this
go.
year I was able to take the time to do more of a deep dive into it and get really nerdy and detailed and whatnot. And so, being able to record pretty much all through quarantine was really a good way to sharpen those skills for sure.
Cool. So let's move on to the second track, Night Train, which you wrote with Dar Williams. And there's a music video, which I kind of mentally called Snow on the Tracks instead of Blood on the Tracks.
That's a good song title too.
So,
stay tuned for session 2.
Yes.
So tell me about the song. Tell me about did you get cold? Did you get frostbite?
Taking my time, I'll stay on this line to the end of the track. Watch the sunrise, maybe 2 or 3 times before I come back.
We're from Michigan. Those words don't exist for us.
Yeah, I hear you.
It was like at least 25 degrees.
Yes, that's fine enough,
Yeah.
So you want to talk about Night Train?
Yeah, Night Train. So at the time we reached out to Dar, we had done a couple of the songs. We had done the co-write with Kim. We'd been starting to write with Paxton every Monday. And so, like Sav mentioned, we realized like, hey, let's like keep this going and see if we can record some of these songs. So we made a conscious effort to reach out to Dar, of course, after being fans forever and having a chance to open for her when we were still teenagers. We'd really kind of crossed paths a few times, and so we just reached out and said, hey, you want to write a song together? And she said yes, and we were just so thrilled. And we had a lot of Zoom calls. We had a lot of sessions with Dar, and we almost like started writing this other random song about like, hanging out with your neighbors, and like, it was really funny. And then we kind of took a pivot and ended up writing this song based off one of these stories that she told us about the last train ride she took cross country before COVID shut everything down. So Sav and I just really enjoyed hearing her talk about those travels, because we don't usually have the opportunity to take a train ride. We're always rushing from place to place in our van or on a plane, and she painted all these amazing pictures of what you can see about the land and the people and the communities when you're taking things slow. And we wrote so many verses to Night Train. We really had to kind of pare down after a while. I mean, we just had so many great conversations. And yeah, we wrote Night Train and filmed a music video out in our hometown of Traverse City, just hanging out under this abandoned train tunnel. It all came
Having
together.
snowball fights. Yeah, good
Good
times.
That's excellent. Well, it was interesting because before I listened to the music, I saw the song titles, and there's a song called Night Train and then one called Wildfire. And I'm thinking, oh, this is a covers EP, because there are well-known songs with those titles. And especially, if we can talk about Wildfire, because that's an old song from the 70s, Michael Murphy, I think it was, or somebody like that. Anyway, but you've written this one with Kim Richey, and again, there's a music video attached to it. So tell me all about it.
Ivy climbs the walls and nestles in the brick. Sparrow builds a nest above the front door. The newest heartaches on the radio again. No one's listening anymore.
Yeah, so what's funny is that sorry, my dog is
Jesus.
There he is.
my dog.
I've met so many pets this way. It's ridiculous. It's fantastic.
So
You're all by yourself now.
okay.
Pardon my language.
All good, all good. Okay, so
You gonna do it again?
No, he's going right back for it. I
photo,
was like,
please. Okay, my dog is interrupting the podcast. Sorry about that. Okay, so the way that this this EP actually started was with this very serendipitous kind of to-do list that I guess we made. We started trying to figure out how to live stream almost immediately after we went into quarantine, because we were like, we got to make income, we got to play music, let's make it happen. So I started making like a list of how to do live streaming through different platforms, 2 different platforms, using a thing called OBS, and what became a list of like what not to do just quickly turned into a whole manual. It was like a 40-page manual on how to broadcast.
You did have a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah. So this, I put it on my Facebook, just like, hey, if any musicians need this, like, feel free to pass it around, and it blew up. It got picked up by Hypebot and Bands in Town, and the Recording Academy and the Grammys reached out and asked me to come on some panels.
Man.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So I was like on a panel with Adam Neely for a minute, and I was like trying really hard just to not freak out. But so, obviously I was making a lot of connections with people, like venues were reaching out, and I was doing consultations, and eventually Club Passim in Cambridge, Massachusetts reached out, and they were like, hey, we've got Kim Richey for an upcoming concert. Will you talk to her about live streaming? And I was like, Kim Richey? I saw her at the Ryman like 2 months ago with Brandy Carlisle. What the heck? So we were like, yeah, we can talk to her, absolutely. And halfway through the combo, I was like, so, if you're ever interested in doing like a virtual co-write, let me know. And she's like, heck yes, let's do it. And I was like, what? No way. So we really got onto like a Zoom call like a week later. I had this like idea that I got from my mom at the dinner table. We were just talking about what a crazy year it'd been, and she's like, yeah, it really feels like we're just waiting on a wildfire. And I was like, hold that thought. I'm gonna take that upstairs for a couple minutes and send it off to her, and she really brought that song to life. So we were lucky to write with her, and the music video is all about just a year of how Might As Well Be Gold is about all the things that we still have and what we're grateful for. I think Wildfire touches on, all that we might have taken for granted before this time.
Yeah.
There's lots of shots of like just us like playing to like thousands of people, and then they just smoothly transition into us just being alone in our house. And that's everybody went through that to some extent. Everybody's grieving some sort of loss. So
that's true. That is very true. Yes. That's a good summation of that. And I love this just because me being an ex-American, living and having been here, seeing you guys driving down a throughway or something, and the landscape just looks so familiar to me. Even it doesn't look like that here, and so you can kind of glom onto that as well. It's very nice, yeah. And musically, it kind of reminded me of like Suzanne Vega or something. I don't know. So
can we put that on our website?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Excellent.
Was that the plan?
Yes, that was the plan all along, is get one comparison to Suzanne Vega.
Okay.
It's a long game. We can retire now.
All right, very cool. Now you mentioned Tom Paxton. I mean, the guy is 83 years old. He's been around longer than just about everybody. How did that happen? And he's written some amazing songs, I mean, we all know them. So how did that happen?
I'm afraid of what we've made. It's a consequence of silence. There's no beauty in the violence. Daybreak, I lie awake. It's just another sunrise. It's just another sunrise. Anyway.
Well, we connected with Tom through our booking agency. So we're signed with Fleming Artists, and a lot of booking agencies had a really hard time at the beginning of quarantine. And so what our agency did to react was they started weekly Zoom calls, and the artists and the management would get on, and everyone would just discuss what was going on. And that kind of turned into like once a month, we'd all play songs. All the songwriters in the call would share a tune. And so Sav had just written a new song, and we played it on the Zoom call. And afterwards, Tom sent us an email and reached out to us and asked if we wanted to start co-writing with him. And then things went great, and he asked us if we would set up a weekly co-write. So we've been writing with Tom every Monday for, I mean, since last fall,
Since last
summer.
August. Yeah.
So we've really gotten to know Tom pretty well, and he's almost like family to us now.
Very
You know,
cool, very
We've written
cool.
songs like about everything from, you know, something heavy topics, like
Right.
we were writing about Portland, and this song that made it on the EP is one of the pretty heaviest songs, but we have also written songs about like getting our wisdom teeth removed and like, I don't know, people who inspire us. And we've just written about everything with Tom.
So when you write with somebody like him, who's several generations different than you, and he's been doing it for so long, how does it work? Do you kind of find a common ground, or are you just sitting there at his feet going, tell us what we should do, or how this works? Or
Both. Definitely both. We have a lot of reverence for him. One of the first interactions we ever had with Tom was he gave me his number, and he was like, you guys reach out if you ever want to talk about songwriting. And that was before we were doing any co-writes. So I remember we were thinking about, like, you know, how do we sum up how we feel about this very crazy time? There's protests happening, there's wildfires, there's an election cycle happening. Like, how do we talk about any of this?
Yeah.
Like, genuinely. And I called him and I asked him that question, and he was like, you know what? Nobody likes to be preached to. The first thing you should do is write like you're in the room where it's happening.
Right.
And that was like amazing advice. And soon after we started writing together, and we still, you know, he still drops tidbits of wisdom like all the time. And sometimes he'll just tell us some story about him like walking down the street with Bob Dylan, or how he's best friends with Shel Silverstein. And we're just like it's just a real treat just to be able to hang with him.
that would blow my mind. Yes.
Yeah, it's really he's one of the sweetest, kindest people we've just ever had the opportunity to work with, and there's such a level of respect. I don't know, it's easy. It's not even a second thought.
Very cool. Very cool. And you have one more song on the EP we can talk about, All Shall Be Well. So why is that at the end of the EP? And tell me about writing it with Mary and, is it Jamie Harris?
Yeah.
All shall be well. All shall be well in the end. All shall be well.
Yeah, we wrote that song with, I mean, obviously we love Mary's writing. We've ran into her at like Folk Alliance and all these events, and we've gotten to know Jamie Harris pretty well, and the two of them were together in Florida,
Right.
Live streaming and doing some podcasts and stuff, and so we like totally took advantage of that. And since both of them were in the same room, we're like, why don't we try a 4-person co-write, which we'd never done before. And we got to all meet up right at the end of 2020. So it was a few days before Christmas, and you know, everything, like all the weight of 2020 was still kind of sitting on our shoulders, and we came to the table and just started talking with them. And within maybe like 10 minutes, Mary put out the idea, like, how about All Shall Be Well as the seed for this song? Like, how about that as the refrain? And I mean, the whole song was written in like under an hour. It came together so fast, and it just felt so good to sing those words, even though, I mean, we had no idea what 2021 was going to hold, and things still didn't feel like they were shaping up perfect, but we just had this comfort singing those words. So that's another reason we decided to end the EP with the song, is, like Sav mentioned, it really kind of takes you through you know, our journey of processing lockdown and trying to heal through some of it. So it ends on somewhat of a hopeful note.
Right. Very good. So how's session 2 coming along?
Well, we're in the middle of getting started to record it.
All right.
We're still wrapping up Vessel. We're hoping to tour Vessel in October. So we're getting really excited about that. And Time Out EP session 2, we're thinking next year. We already have enough songs to do it, so we're really excited. There's more artists we've been writing with that we're really excited to talk about. So yeah, it's been a good year already. We're happy to put out new music.
Very cool. And hopefully you can be on stage sometime soon. Come down to New Zealand and visit us. We'd love to hear you.
Oh,
I would love to.
That would be the dream. So cool.
because we're doing shows left, right, and center. I went to see the Bats and the Chills last night, 2 classic Flying Nun bands, and they're just playing around the corner here at a place called the Power Station. It was awesome.
Well, it's funny. I saw Amanda Palmer got like, she was like touring New Zealand and then just ended up staying.
He's still here.
I kind of love that. I don't know. It's funny.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, it's a place to be, that's for sure. So check it out if you can.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, thank you very much for talking to me. I appreciate it. And I was so happy that you were laughing, especially when your dog was, because I did an interview the other day and there were tears involved. And I was like, oh no, you know, we don't want crying. We want laughing during the interview.
Oh man, we've been through enough. We're called the X-Nels for a reason. Like enough stuff happens. You just have to laugh.
Thank God for that. I was afraid I was just making women cry every time I talked to them. But anyway, yes, thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.